What's up, everybody? And we are back here today for a fantasy football episode. I know we usually do them on Tuesdays, but yesterday we had the lovely Missy Kate here on the channel, so definitely go and check out that episode. It's now on the channel in the archive episode, past live streams tab if you're looking for it. And today, the waivers have went through. It's a new week, and it's time to set your week 4 fantasy football lineup. So we're going to talk about what you need to do to set your lineup, what happened last week, who's in, who's out, who's a risky fantasy starter, and who's a good play, who's not, and everything in between. But let's not waste no time, and let's get right into it, and let's talk about all of the games that happened in week 3. And let's talk about, and let's recap week 3 a little bit, shall we? Now, let me take a look-see. Let me make sure I have the right one. Yes, we do. We have the right one. I'm just going to take myself out so you guys can see it without my big fat face in the thing. But let's go over these games. We got the scores this week. The Broncos defeated the Buccaneers 26-7. And can we talk about how Baker Mayfield did not look very good and the Buccaneers offense looked like trash? And Bo Nix actually showed up and showed out. Like, Bo Nix might actually know what he's doing. And Bo Nix is somebody that might be a sleeper for fantasy coming up. We had the Chargers be defeated by the 3-0 Justin Fields. The 3-0 Justin Fields is just it's incredible to see that the Steelers are doing this with Justin, with everything that they have going on. They weren't supposed to be this good. They weren't supposed to be good at all, to be honest. And here they are doing their thing, shutting people out, playing good football. We did see Justin Herbert leave the game, though, so that was obviously a big thing that happened in the game, and that is obviously a big reason on why, and we'll have to keep an eye out throughout the next week to see what happens with Justin Herbert, and see if he is okay and if he does play in this upcoming week. But the Steelers did win 20-10. Eagles, I know Jade has had himself a good time watching this game, as the Eagles defeated the Saints 15-12. After scoring 91 points in the first 2 weeks of the season. The Saints could not even get over 14 points. Dallas Goedert had himself a huge game with over 10-plus receptions. He had 70-plus yards, and he finished with 27 fantasy points. If I'm not mistaken, he finished with 10 receptions for 170 yards. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's exactly what the numbers are. Dallas Goedert had himself a good game. Alvin Kamara didn't have himself a great game, but I think they'll be okay. Saquon Barkley, though, did what Saquon Barkley does, got a touchdown, and he put up some points for you. Now, let's talk about a team that did not put up any points for you, and I know it's a team that we all were going into and that we've been very high on during the season, the preseason, and everything, and it's the Houston Texans. After showing up, doing what they did last week against the Chicago Bears on Sunday Night Football, the Minnesota Vikings, guys, that defense is a nasty, nasty group. And they've been very good lately. So I think that they're a team that we need to keep an eye on for, and a team that we just need to make sure that if your team is starting them or your quarterback is starting them, that defense might have to watch out for. Because CJ Stroud did not have a good game. He had 1 touchdown. I think he had 270 yards. He did throw 2+ interceptions. CJ Stroud just did not have himself a phenomenal game. Vikings are now 3-0 with Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson. How about them apples? We got the Chicago Bears losing to the Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis Colts. It was a great game. It was a good defensive game for a while as it took the rookie quarterback to get going for a little bit. The Bears played great for a minute. Caleb threw some bad passes, some interceptions. Both guys didn't have themselves a great game until Jonathan Taylor. The Bears got a penalty. Jonathan Taylor gave the Colts the first down, and Jonathan Taylor ran the ball to the end zone. And after that, it was a complete mess, and the Colts went on to win. But one thing that did happen and that we do have to talk about is Rome Odunze, Caleb Williams, the Rome Odunze, I should say. First connection, first touchdown connection for both of them. First ever touchdown pass, first ever touchdown catch by those guys. Hopefully it's more in Chicago, but the Colts squeaked by with a win, 21-16. As I said, JT had a good game. Anthony Richardson did not. I know a lot of people took him very high in their drafts, and I know people were hoping to be a QB1. I'm not too worried about him just yet, but it is something to keep an eye on for. Now let's talk about this Malik Willis and these Green Bay Packers, because you guys know how I feel about Green Bay. But watching Malik Willis do this against the Tennessee Titans, the team that drafted him, just shows that the Tennessee Titans are the place where quarterbacks go to die. We've seen Ryan Tannehill. We've seen Malik Willis. We've seen guys after guys after guys go here in Tennessee and just not have themselves good times at all. Packers, on the other hand, their defense played great. Jaire Alexander had a pick six. It was a good time. As I said, Malik Willis had a good game. Emmanuel Wilson had himself a good one, and he's been somebody that has been talked about on the waiver wire as of lately. We'll talk about those guys more soon, later on in the show. We got the Giants taking on the Browns as Malik Nabers showed up and did his thing, had himself a phenomenal game, showed why he was such a high draft pick in the draft, and why maybe some of us should have possibly took him higher in fantasy football this year. The Giants, I should say Malik Nabers, got themselves the win as they defeated the Browns 21-15. The Dolphins, Skylar Thompson did not look very good. He did get hurt. Somebody else came in. Then he got hurt. Then Skylar Thompson came back. Raheem Mostert was out. Tyreek Hill didn't get anything going. Jalen Waddle was lost and confused. And the Seahawks took advantage of it in every which way. DK Metcalf had a 70-plus yard touchdown. Zach Charbonnet had a touchdown. It was all over the place. And now Seattle gets to go and play the Detroit Lions that have given up and I think that it is the exact, they've given up the most fantasy yards to receivers so far this year. So make sure you keep DK in your lineup as they defeated the Dolphins 24-3. And we'll have to see what happens with the Dolphins as they need quarterback help fast and quickly. Now let's talk about the game that I don't think anybody expected to happen, and that is the Carolina Panthers and the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think anybody saw this happening, and I do not believe that anybody saw 36-22 go out and happen like the way it did. Andy Dalton showed up, showed out, did what he had to do. Deontay Johnson had himself a phenomenal game to remind people who Deontay Johnson is. The Carolina Panthers showed up in a time and they proved that, it's any given Sunday and you really never know what could happen in the NFL. Am I going to tell you to go pick up Andy Dalton in fantasy football and tell you to start him every week? No. I will tell you, if you are in a super flex where you have two quarterbacks, 14, 16 team leagues, maybe pick him up as a backup quarterback or something like that. But I'm not rolling my dice and I'm not having high hopes on Andy Dalton because he had one good game in Carolina, and I just do not want to do that. That's next week's schedule. We'll go over that later. Now let's talk about the Lions and the Cardinals. The Lions and Cardinals, probably one of the best games of the week, to be honest, as I really enjoyed it. It was a good defensive game. We saw Kyler Murray make some good stuff. We saw Marvin Harrison have himself two great catches to have 20-plus fantasy points after the first quarter. But the Lions got the win 20-13 with a trickery play from Jared Goff to Amon St. Brown to Jahmyr Gibbs for the touchdown. And the Lions beat the Cardinals. And the Lions now, as I said, they will go face Seattle. The Cardinals, they'll go on. We'll see what happens with them this week. Let's hope that they do better. Now let's talk about a wild game. And I know I said that the Lions game was good, but this game was very, very good. It was the 49ers. It was the Los Angeles Rams. And we saw the 49ers and Jahwu Jennings, as you guys see on the thumbnail. He had 173 yards. He had 11 receptions. He had 3 touchdowns. And he had over 40 fantasy points. And sadly, I lost to him. I played him in one of my leagues, and I lost this league, sadly, this week. Rams, though, they did not give up after Jahwu Jennings kept scoring touchdowns. They came roaring back all the way, and they came out on top. They won that game. Kyren Williams had over 20-plus fantasy points. He scored a couple touchdowns. Demarcus Robinson didn't have himself a great game. Tutu Atwell didn't, do too much. But Kyren Williams continues to prove on why he is going to be one of the best running backs in the league and why people maybe should not have slept on him like some people may have. And I definitely did in one of them, but I didn't in the other. Kyren Williams might win us championships this year. Just going to have to wait and see how it goes. And we'll see what happens when the Rams go up against the Bears this upcoming week. Now, that's next week's. Now let's talk about the last two games of the week, and that was the Sunday afternoon game, the Sunday night game, and then obviously we had the two Monday night games. So the 3:00 game between the Cowboys and the Ravens, the Cowboys came roaring back. Dak Prescott had himself a great game. We did see some stuff go down with the running backs. Rico Dowdle should hopefully be okay. He should be in the lineup and everything else like that. CeeDee Lamb was frustrated, not happy at all. The Cowboys are the Cowboys. They almost came back and won, but the Ravens hung on to win, and they won 28-25. Sunday Night Football, it was the Chiefs and it was the Falcons. Kirk Cousins trying to make a name for himself in Atlanta. Patty Mahomes trying to keep his name in the KC. Well, Patty Mahomes played good. Kirk Cousins didn't play awful, but the Falcons continue to be the Falcons, and the Falcons will never continue. And it seems no matter who they get at quarterback, they'll never be the team that everybody wants them to be. Kansas City Chiefs won that 22-17. Now, let's talk about these two Monday Night Football games before we get into and we start chatting about Week 4, give you some waiver wire pickups, show you the perfect lineup, get to your questions, and all that good stuff. If you do have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Please go ahead and chat and let me know what you guys feeling about your Week 4 fantasy football lineups. But let's talk about these Monday night games because, what were they? We had the Jaguars and the Bills. That game was a blowout. Josh Allen did his thing. He had himself a phenomenal day. Bills defense did great, and the Jaguars just looked like they were lost and confused, and that they were in a rainforest and they were waiting for something to happen. Just never happened. And they lost 47-10, and that game was over after the second quarter. The other game, though, that was really good was the Commanders and the Bengals. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase showed that they still got that connection. And Jamar Chase very well still might be relevant in fantasy football. So I do say it a lot. It is only week 3, week 4 now. Give it time. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they did make a good point. The Bengals have always sucked the first 4 weeks of the season. And then all of a sudden, the Bengals find their way to figure it out. And that's just how it is in the NFL. I'm still not freaking out. Just like some guys had a great game. I don't assume unless all the guys are out again, I will assume that Jawu Jennings does not have 40-plus fantasy points again. But if he does do it again, then we might have to check out and see what's going on in 49er country because that's a little crazy. On the other side of the ball, though, the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, guys, showed that he is him and he is that quarterback. Brian Robinson scored a touchdown. Austin Eckler scored a touchdown, but Austin Eckler did leave the game with a concussion, and he has already been ruled out for week number 4. So we will not see Austin Eckler, which means Brian Robinson will be an uphill, and he will be a more top-tier running back going into week 4. 38-33. The Commanders got the win. The Bengals are 0-3, and now Jaden Daniels has the Commanders at 2-1 as the Commanders try to do what they hope that they can do. Now, let's get into some waiver wire pickups. Let's talk about some guys that had a great week, and let's talk about it. And then we'll get to some of your comments, your questions. Let me know if anybody's got any good fantasy football questions. I appreciate you all just stopping by here for a few minutes. Thank you all. Now let's talk about it, though. Let's talk about the top performances first, and these top scorers did their thing on Sunday. And if you had them, you know dang well you probably won this week. Let's see how many guys I had on my team and I lost. Jawu Jennings, I had him on my bench in one league, but I sat him in my other league. Or I had him on my bench in one league, and I played against him in another league. But he went out and scored 45.6 fantasy points, 46 fantasy points, just depending on what type of a league you're in. Saquon Barkley for the Eagles at 33.6. Kyren Williams, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, at 31.6. Derrick Henry at 30.4. And Derrick Henry had himself a very good time. And these are actually the top scorers of going into Monday Night Football and this before the Monday Night Football games. Dak Prescott, 29.8 points. He had 44 points in other leagues. Rashid Rice, 29.1 points. Rashid Rice did his thing, had himself a game, and continues to prove why he is a top wide receiver in this league. Malik Neighbors, as I mentioned, 28.2 points. Had himself a good game, 2 touchdowns, carried the way for the Giants, and led them that victory over the Browns. Chuba Hubbard. Who would think that Chuba Hubbard would be in our league and still be relevant in 2024 in fantasy football? But here we are, as he had 27.9 points. And lastly, we got 2 people because my banner is covering it. I see your question, Elijah. Do not go nowhere. Amari Cooper had 27.6 points for the Browns. And then Dallas Goedert, as we talked about earlier, had 27 points as he did his thing for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I see we got a question in here. So let's get to the question for Elijah. And let's help our guy Elijah set that lineup this week. So Elijah has this to say. Yo, what's up, Elijah? 1 and 2 in fantasy. Me too, bro. Dropped 55 points this week in a PPR 12-man. I have Kyler and Carr as quarterbacks, Josh Jacobs and Jordan Mason as running backs, Austin Eckler too. We have Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Jackson Smith and Najibga, Jalen Waddle, Wan'Dale Robinson, Raheem Shaheed, McBride. What should I do? So, guys, get with the so counter. I've said so a lot the last couple minutes. What I would do, I would continue to start Kyler. Your running backs are good because who knows when Christian McCaffrey is going to come back. Tyreek is good. I think the biggest problem with Tyreek, though, is that Tyreek now has Kyler Thomas throwing him the ball. And who knows when Tua and if Tua ever comes back. Mike Evans, apparently Mike Evans is hurt right now, so keep an eye on that. I do think the JSN is a good start this week because the JSN is going to be going up against the Lions, as I mentioned, with DK Metcalf. If DK Metcalf is covered, you always can throw the ball to JSN. Wan'Dale and Shaheed. Shaheed always seems to do this, has a good few weeks, and then he always finds his way back to earth. I mean, I think there's really nothing that you can do unless you want to try to maybe trade Derek Carr, because you don't need 2 quarterbacks as long as, the quarterback position isn't completely destroyed. You could trade Carr for somebody if you really wanted to, but I don't think your team's bad. I just think that you've had some bad luck. Kyler didn't play great because I'm sure the week you won was last week when Kyler and Marvin Harrison just went bananas and had himself a great game, because also Josh Jacobs has done very good the last week he did. This week, not so much. But Elijah, I think you'll be okay. If there is anybody on your waiver wire you wanted me to talk about, please let me know. And as I said, guys, if you got any more questions, please ask me. Always here to help. I love answering questions and always here to help you guys. Now, let's talk about some waiver wire pickups. And I just mentioned them with Elijah. I didn't mention the guys, but I'm going to mention them to you as I just mentioned to Elijah about the waiver wire. We got Bucky Irvin. If you have not yet, I told you guys about him a while ago. I know Rocco was on here talking about him a little bit in the chat. We got Cole Kmet if you need a tight end. Tight ends are always there, and you always could use a tight end. Cole Kmet is good. Jawu Jennings. I think that people may probably have already picked him up. But if they haven't yet, then they must not be paying attention. But if he is out there, I would definitely grab him. Now, I'm not going to expect 46 points from this guy. But I'm going to expect that if George Kittle and Deebo Samuel are out again, that he will get a bulk of the snaps and everything else. But if he is now George Kittle and Deebo Samuel play, then that kind of sends Jennings back down. And this is only Wednesday. And as you guys know, we could see a lot of different things happen. And until then, we'll just have to wait and see. Brandon Allen, another one. I think that if he is still there, you could definitely go and get him. Darnell Mooney, guys, starting off the first 3 weeks with a bang and showing that he might be the number 1 wide receiver for Kirk Cousins, other than obviously Drake London and Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts. All right, so we'll say like the 4th option, but number 2 wide receiver. Darnell Mooney moving up the ranks. And if you need a quarterback, go get our guy Sam Darnold, as Sam Darnold has been doing his thing for the Vikings. He did get injured, but he came back, and he seems like he'll be good to go. Go get Sam Darnold and put him in your lineup. Now, let's get into, and now I gave you some pickups and all of that stuff. Let's get into, and let's start previewing the games for week number 4. I'm going to give you some guys that you need to start, some guys you need to sit, some guys you need to stay away from, and everything in between. But let's get into it. I'm also going to give you my predictions for the show. What's up?
What did you want me to do again?
Put them away and then take out the garbage.
Okay.
Thank you. Week number 4 we got. It's Thursday. It starts tomorrow night, everybody, as we got those New York Giants taking on them boys. It's going to be an interesting game. But I'm going to say the Cowboys win. And let's say it's 27-24. I'll say the Giants keep up with them. But on the other hand, we could very well see this be the Cowboys game and the Cowboys just win 41-0. But I'll stick with 27-24 Cowboys. Saints and Falcons. I'll say the Falcons win this one. I'm very up in the air about this one. But the Falcons are somebody that I think they can keep the Saints back to what happened last week. I don't think the Saints are going to score as many points as they did the first 2 weeks. I think that was something that we may not see for a while again. And it's just something that, sometimes happens in the NFL. The Falcons are going to win this. And let's say it's 28-14. 28-14. Bengals and Panthers. I'm taking the Panthers. Screw it. Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, slinging those touchdowns left and right. I'm going to say the Panthers win 20. Or I'm going to say they score 30. And I'm going to say the Bengals score 21. 30-21. We got the Rams. We got them Chicago Bears, everybody. Bear down, Chicago Bears. In Chicago. We will see what it looks like when we see Matthew Stafford again. Remember, Matthew Stafford was on the Lions for so long. The Bears have had somewhat success against him. I talked about Kyren Williams a little bit earlier. Kyren Williams is somebody that, again, I think is somebody that is going to have a very good game. We'll have to see what happens with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. I think they'll both be out again. So probably Demarcus Robinson, probably Tutu Atwell, and those guys again. Now for the Bears, Keenan Allen should be returning. So shout out to Keenan Allen. And I think that will very, very much help the Bears, especially on third downs. And again, Caleb didn't have a great game last week, but the fact that he threw his first touchdown, he threw 2 touchdowns. Yes, he did have 2 interceptions, but he also threw for 363 yards. And yes, I know one of them helped because he had a 50-yard pass at the end of the half where DJ Moore caught it on the 1-yard line. But that doesn't mean that Caleb still didn't throw the ball a lot, which is okay. So, Chicago Bears, Los Angeles Rams. Let's take the I don't want to go up against the Bears, but I don't know. So let's say 21-24 Rams win. I'll take the Rams this week. Vikings and Packers. I'm going to say the Vikings go 4-0, and I'm going to say they're going to beat the Packers. And I'm going to say this might be the week that Malik Neighbors gets exposed. Because that Vikings defense is nasty, and that Vikings defense is very, very, very good. Let's say 31-10. Malik Willis gets nothing this week. We got the Jaguars. We got the Texans. This is the game the Texans bounce back. We saw what the Bills did to the Jaguars. And now I think the Texans might very well do the same thing. Texans going to go out there. They're going to show out. They're going to score 38-plus points. Let's say they win 38-21. And CJ Stroud has a bounce back game. Cam Akers or Joe Mixon, depending on who is the running back, Stephon Diggs, etc., etc. It's going to be a day. It's going to be a good game for the Texans. The Steelers and the Colts. I'm taking the Colts to win this. Justin Fields gets his first loss. Anthony Richardson gets another win. And Anthony Richardson's starting to get a little confidence in himself. And let's say that they don't win by a high number score, but let's say it is 20. I'll say 28, 27. Last minute touchdown or last minute field goal by the Colts. We got another game at 1 o'clock because it's the Jets and the Broncos. Should be an interesting one, but a game I'm not really looking too much into, and I'm not like interested in, besides I have the Jets defense in fantasy football. I do believe the Jets win this game. Bo Nix had himself a good game last week. I just don't know if he'll continue to do it. And again, any given Sunday, anything can happen. But let's take the Jets to win 30-20. 30-20 Jets. We got the Eagles and the Buccaneers. This very well might be one of the best games of the week if everything goes a certain way. I think it's going to be very high scoring. And I'm going to say 37-34, and Eagles win by a Jake Elliott touchdown. Mike Evans is injured. Chris Godwin is injured. And as I always say, we do these episodes early in the week. It is only Wednesday, so keep an eye out, see what happens, and make sure you look at what happens tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, leading up to the game at 1 o'clock. Now let's talk about the 4 o'clock games before we lead into the one Sunday night. And then we got a doubleheader again on Monday night. We got the Commanders and the Cardinals. A game I think could be very good. Jaden Daniels against Kyler Murray. We got James Conner, Brian Robinson, Scary Terry McLaurin, and Marvin Harrison. This could be a very good game, and this could be a very high-scoring game. And I'm going to be a little bold on this one. I'm going to say the final score is 41-38 Cardinals. And the Cardinals win by a last-second field goal, but it's just a fantasy bonanza. And everybody gets a little piece of something. This is the 49ers as they go up against the Patriots. This is not the Tom Brady Patriots, so don't worry. There will be no comeback, and we don't have to worry about that. But we may have to worry about a little bit if Brock Purdy is fully healthy, if the wide receivers are healthy. And again, I understand Jawu Jennings put up 40-plus points. Let's celebrate it all. But that's not guaranteed to happen every week. That doesn't mean that the Patriots can't now just try to make sure that they triple cover him, especially if he is and the only guy active this week. Then they know that they need to. So I'm not too sure in how positive and which way this game is going to go. I do believe, though, that the 49ers will win this game. And I think it's going to be by a score of 17-10. It's not going to be too high scoring. Get a couple touchdowns in there. It'll be an okay game is what I'll say. Now we got a good old-fashioned divisional rivalry as we got the Chiefs. We got the 49ers, or the Chiefs, and not 49ers. That was the Super Bowl. We got the Chiefs. We got the Los Angeles Chargers. Los Vegas Chargers. Los Angeles Chargers, right? Yeah. Anyway, Justin Herbert might not play. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Gus the Bus is hurt. J.K. Dobbins, I heard, was hurt. And it seems like it's the same old story for the Los Angeles Chargers. And I think that the Chiefs are going to have themselves a passing day. Mahomes is going to eat. Kelsey's going to feast. Steele's going to eat. Rashid Rice is going to eat. And it's just going to be Kansas City all the way. 35-17. We got the Browns and the Raiders. This game's going to be a disaster. It really is. We got Gardner Minshew that don't know what he's doing. We got Deshaun Watson that don't know what he's doing. And all around, it's just going to be a disaster every single way. But it should be an interesting football game. So that's why I'm interested to watch it. I don't know what the score is going to be exactly. This one I've been going back and forth on. So I'm just going to stick with 21-17 Raiders get the dub. Now let's talk about Sunday Night Football as we've been waiting all night for Sunday night. We got Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills we got Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, a Sunday night showdown between two teams in the AFC that could meet in the championship game and teams that we've seen meet a lot in the past. I'm excited for it. I think both teams are going to be very good. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. The one thing I'm just going to tell you to do is start all your players in this game, and hopefully it's a good one. Now with the score, 34-31, Bills are going to lose to the Ravens. And we're going to see the Ravens get the win by 3 points against Josh Allen, 34-31. Now the Titans and Dolphins, remember next week we'll be back here at 6:30, a little half an hour earlier, to watch some Monday Night Football. Doubleheader Monday Night Football. You'll love to see it. We got the Tennessee Titans and Will Levis as he takes on Skylar Thompson and the Dolphins. I think that this is going to be very much defensive. I think that we are going to see very much of guys, a lot of defense. And I really don't know how much offense we're going to see in this game. If there's anybody I'm starting in these teams, it's going to be their defenses in this week of fantasy. I'll say the Dolphins win, though, 20-10, and they get a defensive touchdown. I'll be even bold and say this game is the game that does not have any offensive touchdowns. And if there are any touchdowns, it's going to be by the defense and the field goals. Just saying it. We'll see what happens. Now, to end the week, oh, what a game it is. It's Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, taking on Jared Goff, David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs. It's going to be a good showdown between these two and these two teams. I can't wait for it. I remember these guys fighting back with the Russell Wilsons, the Matthew Stafford days. Now we got Geno. Now we got Goff. Two high-powered offenses, and I'm excited for the shootout. Hopefully it's a shootout, and my score is going to predict a shootout. 35-32. The Lions get the win with another last-second field goal. And we end week 4 with some celebrating on the field in Detroit Lions. I pick a lot of NFC North teams to win. I just got to give the guys the respect that they have. But those are my picks. Those are some guys that are hurt. Those are some guys I would start, some guys to keep an eye on for, and guys that I would just honestly try to stay away from. Now, let's get into the chat. Let's see what you guys are saying. And then we're going to say goodbye for today. And then I'm going to see you all tomorrow for the season finale of the Southside Boys. We got Big Common in the house. What's up, Big Common? How you doing? He says James Conner, Shakir, or Jawu Jennings. I'm gonna go James Conner. But if George Kittle and Deebo Samuel are out, as I said earlier, I would definitely go with Jawu Jennings. That's the only way I'm going to start Jawu Jennings is if George Kittle and Deebo Samuel are both out again. Because if Deebo and Kittle come back, then Jawu is not going to be used as much. What is the plan with McCaffrey? Sell now or continue to hold? So that is a very good question. And that is something that I think depends on your league and depends on what type of settings and everything that you have about what you want and how you have it. Because if it's a keeper league, then I guess you can keep them. What you should do, if you can, which you should be allowed to do in most fantasy leagues, but sometimes I know people don't know that you can do it. You can put him in your IR spot, and then you can pick somebody up, so he's not just sitting on your bench. But if there's somebody, Johnny, that wants to take McCaffrey off your hands, and if you want to get somebody, I mean, it doesn't hurt to try. Now, who could you get? I would, and as you just said, you are 0-3 and thinking of blowing it up. In that case, if you're going to trade McCaffrey, what position do you need the most? Because what you could do is you could take McCaffrey and maybe somebody on the low end and maybe try to get like 2 decent players and a wide receiver, a running back, whatever 2 positions you need. If you need a quarterback, maybe you get a quarterback. But people will just see Christian McCaffrey and they'll be like, I want to see Christian McCaffrey on my team, and I don't even care if he's not playing. So you just got to find that guy in your league and get that trade done. Johnny, let me know if you can get a deal done. Let me know if there is what happens in a future episode. Yeah, let me know, Johnny. But yeah, I think you could if you don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't honestly think that that's a bad idea. There's nothing wrong with trading people if they're hurt, especially that you know that they're going to come back. And again, sometimes getting rid of those guys is better because then it's not a hassle. And yes, I have made the mistake where I've traded guys like that. They come back and they end up making like the team that I traded them to the playoffs and et cetera, et cetera. But it's a risk sometimes you gotta take, and the headache of having these guys on IR all season is very annoying. My team is Joe Burrow, James Conner, David Montgomery, Etienne, Hubbard. You got Chris Olave, Nico Collins, T. Higgins, and George Pickens. That's a really good team. Who's your tight end? I don't know how you're 0-3, though. I mean, I know Joe Burrow didn't have himself a great game, but David Montgomery's been okay. James Conner had a good few weeks. Chris Olave balled out. Nico Collins went off on Sunday night. That's kind of crazy. I know George Pickens had a touch. Man, I told myself I will never draft George Pickens ever again in fantasy football. I do not care at all. I really do not care. Never again. Johnny, though, if you have any more questions, please let me know, bro. But, guys, that's all I got here for you today. So, we've been here for 40 minutes talking everything football, going over all that good stuff. But I also want to let you guys know what else we got on the channel. As you guys know, we've been kind of dabbling in the interview section of the podcast world. And we've had 3 interviews now on the channel. So, I just want to remind you guys to go and check those out if you have not yet. And make sure that you go and check out these episodes. We were joined by Bobby Stevenson, formerly known as Damon Kemp. Last week, we were joined by Bobby Fish, formerly of the Undisputed Era, MLW, and so much more. Bobby doing everything right now. And speaking of somebody that's doing everything, no, it's not Brandon does everything, but she very well might be coming up there as it's Missa does everything. Missa Mania coming next year again. Missa Kate was on the channel last night, guys. We talked about her upcoming matches that she'll be having in October. We talked about some of the things that she's been doing lately, things and everything that you need to just go. And make sure you check out the podcast to see what we talked about. I'm not spoiling it for you. Go check out the podcast, but it was a good talk. We talked about, like I said, a few upcoming matches. We talked about matches that she's had in AEW. We talked about her possibly going to TNA and much more. So don't forget to go check out those episodes now on the channel. He says his tight ends are Komet and Freiermuth. My thing is the players I got on my bench always seem to outperform who. I feel you on that. I said Jawu Jennings on and last week in one of my leagues because I was facing him in another league. Problem with my league is that nobody trades, and the only guy who is interested in McCaffrey is offering Waddle and Keenan Allen. Well, what if you take who's his running backs? Because Waddle's not a bad option. Yes, Waddle doesn't have the quarterback that is the top tier quarterback, but if you could get like a Jalen Waddle and like a running back, I definitely would possibly consider doing that trade. That honestly would not be a bad trade at all. Waddle and a running back for McCaffrey, especially if McCaffrey is going to be out, you don't know. And at least you're getting guys that are going to be on your roster that can perform. And let's just hope that none of those guys get hurt also. Johnny, I appreciate you. Guys, though, that's all I got here for you. As I said, continue to leave your comments. If I see them before we say goodbye, I will answer them. But if not, leave them in the comment section of this episode, and I will make sure to get you back to you and help you in any which way that I can. But, guys, that's all we're going to do today's show. Week 4 is coming up. Can't even believe how fast it's coming. Next week, we will not have a fantasy football show, as I will be out of town in Chicago. As you guys know, we will be going to NXT next Tuesday, the premiere episode of the CW. We'll explain what's be going on the channel next week. Later this week, what will be happening or what will not be happening. But just so you guys know, the people that do watch the fantasy football show, there will be no fantasy football next week. But we will be back live next Sunday for another football game. So no fantasy show, but we'll be here for a football game. So it's kind of like, yeah, which is okay. We'll be back in a few weeks with both very soon. Just next week's kind of crazy, as I got to go to Chicago, and I don't know when we'll be back here, at least until Friday. And I don't want to have you guys wait that long. But tomorrow, it is time for the season finale and the series finale here on Tino's Time, as we will be moving, and we'll be talking to him more about it on the Southside episodes as they come out. But the Southside Boys looks like we'll be getting our own YouTube channel, and we're going to be starting it a little bit after the season, after everything slows down, after those World Series. But tomorrow, it's the season finale of the 2024 MLB season, as the White Sox are one game away from becoming the worst MLB team in the modern day era. They did win last night, and watch these guys just keep winning and win every game until Sunday, and then they'll lose. Just watch. I can see it happening. But we'll have to see what they are. But they're most likely going to become the worst MLB team in history. So make sure that you come and chat with Tino, Deech, a bunch of special guests. Justin's going to pop in for a second if he can get some time. It's going to be a good episode. We're going to chat. We're going to recap the season, talk about what favorite moments we had, if there were any, all the shenanigans that have been coming out with Jerry Reinsdorf. What is Chris Getz doing about saying that he doesn't want to sign these free agents? The South Side is a disaster, but don't you worry. The South Side Boys got you ready, and we're going to get you ready for the offseason. I will make sure to let you know what we'll be doing in the offseason for the show. That's what we got tomorrow. 7 o'clock. Make sure you guys remember, 7 o'clock, we go live here on the channel. It's 2 hours later. We're going to do the episode a little bit later, right before and a little bit during the football game, which will be okay. So if you have a little time at 7, come and hang out with your boys. But guys, that's all I got here for you. So go follow all the social medias. Go and hit that like button. Buy your merchandise if you have not yet at bonfire.com. Hit that like button. Subscribe on the road to 3K. Turn that notification button on. And I'll see you guys all back here tomorrow at 7 p.m. for the season finale. All the Southside Boys, as we talk about the worst MLB team in the modern history.